Welcome back to World According to Briggs, your go-to channel for geography, real estate, and comedy. Today we look at a survey we ran late last year where we asked residents of the 60 largest cities in the United States if they would recommend it to their friends or family. Almost all of the cities had a majority saying that they would. Today's video is about the 15 largest cities with the highest percentage that said they would not recommend their city to their friends or family. Like the state video, only about 6 of the cities were over 50% saying that they wouldn't recommend, which I found strange because most of the time people have this weird attachment to their cities. Not so much their state, definitely their cities. That's what we're doing today. Got it? Get it? Good. Let's take a look. Number 15, Stockton, California. Stockton is that city you drive through on your way somewhere better and think, wow, they must be filming the next Walking Dead spinoff here. The unemployment rate here regularly hovers higher than the national average, and it was one of the first major cities in the U.S. to declare bankruptcy back in 2012. They never seem to mention that in the travel guides for Stockton. It's weird. Crime also keeps Stockton on the do not recommend list. The violent crime rate is over 50% higher than the national average, and the city consistently shows up on the most dangerous lists. Add in high housing costs, because it's California, and they never miss a chance to overcharge, and you've got yourself a city that residents often say, stay away unless you're into bad decisions. 29.3% of Stockton's population wouldn't recommend it to friends or family. Number 14, Hartford, Connecticut. Hartford is the insurance capital of America, but ironically, living here feels like a bad gamble. The poverty rate here is a staggering 27%. That's one of the highest in the nation for a state capital. Meanwhile, the median household income is about half the national average. That's not a small gap. That's a freaking canyon. Violent crime rates are more than double the national average, and residents say the city feels like it's been stuck in neutral for decades. While parts of Connecticut scream old money, Hartford often feels more like an old problem. Locals don't sugarcoat it either. They'll tell you to cash out and head somewhere else. 32.1% of them said they would not recommend it to friends or family. Number 13, Portland, Oregon. Portland, it's just one of those places that everyone in the comment section seems to want to bring up because I live here. Okay, I do. It sucks. Moving on. Portland used to be the go-to spot for young people. It was fun, people were interesting, and we thought the good times would never end. Now, it's not so fun. The people are interesting in a train wreck kind of way, and the good times ended around 2017. It's now a blueprint for a city that runs out of balance and starts believing its own BS. The homeless crisis has exploded, with tents and makeshift camps lining sidewalks, underpasses, and even city parks. Residents constantly complain about the open-air drug use, which they've toned it down a little bit now, and downtown businesses have been fleeing in droves. The city's population growth has slowed to a crawl, and surveys show a record number of locals planning to leave in the next few years. To be fair, though, it has gotten a little bit better since the suckage peak in 2023, but still, it blows more than it doesn't. Crime has also gone through the roof here. Property crime is nearly double the national average, and car thefts have skyrocketed, which I didn't know people were still stealing cars. You got to be stealing cars that nobody cares about because they're not going to put a tracking device. The tracking device you can get from Apple and everywhere else, just throw one in your trunk someplace. And when your car goes missing, just call the police, go, yeah, it's at the Voodoo Donuts downtown. It's that hard. But people are still stealing cars. There's also a lot of people arrested for stealing cars because of tracking devices. It makes zero sense. If you're out there in a drug-fueled haze, don't steal a car. It's a bad move. I mean, you're making bad moves already. This is just a minor one. Why not, right? But just don't if you don't want to get caught. Anyway, violent crime, while not as bad as places like Southside Chicago or St. Louis or Camden, New Jersey, it's still significantly above the national average, and many residents say they no longer feel safe in areas they once loved. It's a fact. There's a bunch of areas I don't go to anymore. It is better, like I said, since the 2023 peak, but still sucks. Add in high taxes, soaring housing costs, and constant political brawls, and Portland has gone from keep Portland weird to keep avoiding Portland. Even locals will tell you don't move here unless you like chaos served with overpriced everything. 33.4% of Portland residents wouldn't recommend it to a family member. I wouldn't. I'd tell you to take one of the suburbs. They're nice. Number 12, Shreveport, Louisiana. If you've ever wondered what happens when casinos don't quite save a city, Shreveport is your answer. Once pitched as a mini Las Vegas, the reality turned into be a sad slot machine that only pays in disappointment. The poverty rate here is over 24%. Unemployment is above the national average, and the city has been bleeding residents for about 2 decades. On top of that, crime is sky high, violent crime rates are almost double the national average, and property crimes are rampant. Locals have a way of saying, don't bother moving here unless you like boarded up buildings and potholes big enough to ruin your suspension. 35.2% of Shreveport's residents wouldn't recommend it to a loved one or a friend. Cleveland, Ohio. Cleveland has some diehard fans, but many residents will also warn you that it isn't a place you want to build your dream life. Poverty rates here are brutal, hovering around 30%. The population has been in free fall for decades, and many neighborhoods look more abandoned than occupied. Crime adds to the problem. Violent crime rates here are more than double the national average, and the police department is under constant strain. The city does have the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, but honestly, people usually just roll through Cleveland on their way to somewhere else or somewhere safer. 35.4% of Cleveland's residents would not recommend it to a loved one. Number 10, Anchorage, Alaska. Anchorage sounds exotic, mountains, wildlife, northern lights, but living here is another story. The cost of living is sky high. Groceries are expensive enough to make you cry, and the heating bill in winter can eat half your paycheck. Residents joke that you'll need to sell body parts to buy eggs here. Crime is a major problem. Anchorage has one of the highest violent crime rates in the country, with assaults and domestic violence cases being constant. Combined with long, dark winters that test even the toughest Alaskans, and you'll understand why residents often tell outsiders, it's great to visit, but don't try and live here unless you enjoy seasonal depression with a side of bankruptcy. 36.2% of Anchorage residents would not recommend it to family or friends. Number 9, Oakland, California. Oakland has beautiful views of the bay, but residents will warn you that the beauty fades fast once you start adding up the downsides. Violent crime rate is more than double the national average, and property crime is so bad that break-ins are practically a neighborhood pastime. Residents joke that if you don't want your car stolen, leave the windows down and the doors unlocked. Then they'll think it's one of those bait cars and they're being set up by the police. Genius right there. On top of that, Oakland has a sky-high cost of living. Combine that with a poverty rate that's nearly 16% and a homeless population that has doubled in recent years, and you get a city that makes even its locals say, go ahead and visit San Francisco instead. You'll still get mugged, but at least you'll get a postcard first. 39.8% of Oakland residents would not recommend it to a friend or loved one. Number 8, Tulsa, Oklahoma. Tulsa has been trying hard to reinvent itself with remote worker programs, but residents will still tell you the reality to live here, it's all hype. Poverty rates hover around 20%. The public transit system is a joke, and violent crime is nearly double the national average. It's not exactly the fresh start many outsiders imagined. Infrastructure struggles are another sore spot. Roads are in constant need of repair, and flooding issues pop up regularly. While Tulsa might lure you in with cheap housing, locals are quickly to remind you that a $150,000 house isn't much of a deal when you start adding up all the negatives that Tulsa brings with it. 43.1% of Tulsa residents wouldn't recommend it to a friend or loved one. Number 7, Fresno, California. Not too far from Stockton, you got Fresno, California, and it's in the middle of California's agricultural hub. but residents often describe it as a place you want to leave as quickly as possible. The poverty rate here is around 22%. Unemployment is constantly higher than the national average, and the air quality is some of the worst in the country thanks to smog, wildfire, smoke, and people literally burning tires for some reason. Violent crime rate is also a major issue, with the rates about double the national average. Add in scorching summers where the temperatures routinely top 100 degrees, and locals will warn you Fresno feels like a city designed to test your endurance rather than reward your residency. 44.2% wouldn't recommend this city to their friends and family. Number 6, Jackson, Mississippi. Now, Jackson sucks. Everybody knows it, but for some reason always seems to miss these lists. But here it is. Jackson has been making headlines lately for all the wrong reasons. The water crisis left residents without safe drinking water for weeks, exposing just how fragile the city's infrastructure is. That's not a small problem. That's a serious red flag. On top of that, Jackson has a poverty rate that's around 25%, meaning 1 in 4 adults there are living in poverty. High unemployment, and violent crime that's nearly 4 times the national average. Residents are leaving in droves, and those who remain often warn others not to move there unless they enjoy a lot of headaches and no tap water. 57.4% of Jackson's residents wouldn't recommend it to a friend or family. All right, real quick, I want to tell you about today's sponsor, AG1, the drinkable multivitamin that makes you feel like you've actually got your life together. 1 scoop of AG1 is basically your daily health insurance policy in a glass. You get your multivitamins, your prebiotics, your probiotics, your superfood, and your antioxidants all rolled into one easy, delicious habit. Let's be honest, most of us don't eat enough kale. That's where AG1 comes in. It fills the nutrient gaps in your diet so you don't have to pretend that your frozen pizza counts as vegetables. I mean, it's got those little bell peppers in there. Isn't that a vegetable? But if you think those little bell peppers are flavorful, you're going to be blown away. AG1 now has 4 flavors. The original, tropical, berry, and citrus. I like berry and citrus. Those are my favorites. Now, a quick breakdown of what it does. It supports your energy so you don't have a mid-afternoon crash like a car running out of gas. It improves digestion and gut health. It supports immune health so you don't have the sniffles all the way through flu season. And for those of you who've been following World According to Briggs for a while, you know last October I had some serious health issues. It was kind of scary. When I got past all that, it was like a wake-up call. One of the first things I did was start eating better. I went back to the gym, and I looked into something that would help with the gaps in my diet. I found AG1, and it's one of the healthy habits I can stick to without needing a motivational speech from a life coach or a personal trainer that's pretending to be a life coach. So if you're ready to stop guessing whether you're getting the nutrients you need, check out AG1 today. Use my link in the description area below or use the QR code and you'll get a free welcome kit worth $76 when you subscribe. This includes 5 AG1 travel packs, a shaker, a canister, and a scoop. Give the new AG1 flavors a try today. Back to the video. Number 5, Little Rock, Arkansas. Little Rock looks charming at first glance, but spend a little time here and you'll see why residents aren't handing out welcome home baskets. The city's violent crime rate is more than 3 times the national average, and car theft is so rampant people joke about installing self-checkout scanners in their driveways. The poverty rate is over 18% above the national average, and public schools here are struggling. Even with relatively low cost of living, many residents feel trapped by the city's lack of opportunity. When locals say don't move here, it's not because they're being dramatic. It's because they had to live through the daily reality of sirens, boarded up businesses, and the sense that the city never quite grew up. Little Rock's a nightmare. I mean, it is half ghetto, half trailer park, and half, reminds me of the haulers up in West Virginia. Just some weird stuff goes off in those neighborhoods. 64.5% of Little Rock residents wouldn't recommend it to a friend or family. Number 4, Toledo, Ohio. Toledo is another Rust Belt city where residents will politely but firmly say, don't move here. The poverty rate here is around 25%, unemployment is high, and the violent crime rate is more than double the national average. They also have horrible winters. It's not exactly the glass city sparkle that the brochure promised. They used to bill it as the glass city. I mean, it's still called that, but it's just got so many negatives overshadowing anything that Glass City brings with it. They got a Glass City Center in the middle of town, too. The city also struggles with infrastructure problems, underfunded schools, and a downtown that never fully recovered from the 2008 crash. Toledo, I almost say Toledo about 10 times so far because there used to be a elementary school real close to my house called Toledo in Redondo Beach. But it's Toledo. Toledo locals love their Mud Hens baseball team, but they'll also tell you that if you're moving here for opportunity, you're probably looking in the wrong place. 67.3% wouldn't recommend Toledo to a friend or loved one. Number 3, Birmingham, Alabama. Birmingham was once the Magic City, but these days the magic is more like a vanishing act. The poverty rate here is around 25%, which is double the national average, like we already discussed. Pair that with struggling schools, and you start to see why the locals give a polite southern smile and then tell you not to move there. Crime is another strike. Birmingham's violent crime rate is nearly 4 times the national average. You can't build a thriving downtown when everyone is scared to park their car overnight. Birmingham has history, sure, but the modern story feels like a cautionary tale. I mean, what's really funny is the Birmingham in England sucks too. Something about the name, I guess. 68.3% wouldn't recommend Birmingham to a friend or loved one. Number 2, Camden, New Jersey. Camden often shows up on lists about America's poorest cities with a poverty rate that's nearly 35%. And the city has struggled for decades with corruption, crime, and failing schools. It's basically the cautionary tale of urban planning gone wrong and then got twisted. And then they try and fix it and it just gets twisted some more. It's a weird place. It's right across the river from Philadelphia, too. And like I've said in past videos years ago, I'm sure the residents of Philadelphia wouldn't mind blowing some bridges between them. Crime rates, especially violent crime, are among the worst in the country. Camden has improved a little in the last decade, but even locals will tell you, if you're thinking about moving here, don't. Unless, of course, you're into sky-high crime and some of the roughest streets in the Northeast. 71.2% wouldn't recommend moving to Camden to friends or loved ones. That's a rough number. All right, before we get to number 1, if you have not subscribed to this channel, what are you waiting for? Also, if you're thinking about moving to any one of these nice cities, which you should pick another one, there's a link in the description area below for Home and Money. They can get you in touch with a real estate agent anywhere in the country. All right, on to number 1. And number 1, Gary, Indiana. Gary is basically the textbook definition of industrial decline. Once a booming steel town, today the city has lost nearly 55% of its population since the 1960s. Entire blocks sit abandoned and poverty rates hover around 30%. The violent crime rate is almost 4 times the national average, and the city feels more like a ghost town than a hometown. Residents don't mince words. They'll flat out tell you not to move to Gary. It's a city still waiting for a comeback that might never happen. I think we'll be hit by a giant asteroid before they come back. And then maybe 73% of Gary's population wouldn't recommend it to a friend or loved one. That sucks. All right, that's today's video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, give the video a big thumbs up. Leave me a comment. Have a great day. Be nice to each other.